Build compelling real-time apps quickly and scale them globally with the PubNub real-time network. Only PubNub delivers the core building blocks needed for any real-time application. Find out for yourself by signing up for free today. Visit pubnub.com. Welcome to This Week in Location-Based Marketing, the most trusted podcast dedicated to the new business of location. Hello, everybody. It is time for This Week in Location-Based Marketing. This is episode number 146, recording this live on September 6th. 2013. My name is Rob Woodbridge from Untether.tv, located in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And that very familiar background is from Toronto, and one Mr. Asif Khan. Welcome back, Asif.
Hey, good to be here. Asif Khan from the Location-Based Marketing Association, here yet again for another episode, and we got some phenomenal stories this week. So.
What are we ever?
I'm excited.
Yes, I am as well. And for those of you who are coming into us for the first time, the second time, the third time, or from a different direction, if you're not coming to us from the lbma.com or on tether.tv, maybe you're coming to us from our syndicate partners, welcome. Did you know that you can subscribe to this podcast, this very podcast? It's either in video or in audio. It comes into your inbox, whatever podcast software you need. All you have to do is go to iTunes or your favorite place to get podcasts and do a search for This Week in Location-Based Marketing. You will find us, subscribe, and you will be smarter, faster. That's my pitch. Thank you for doing that, by the way, and welcome. Let's see if we do have a jammed story. We got We got 6 stories. We got our app of the week, so to speak. Really cool resource as well. Got a mobile minute with Chuck Martin, and our special guest is Ryan Golden, who is the co-founder and CEO of a company called Moasis. But first, what's going on with the Location-Based Marketing Association?
Well, there's always lots going on, especially in a new fall season here. We got, it seems like 10 or 12 events going on. Almost every chapter's got an event happening. But just to highlight a couple quickly, this month, next Wednesday, the 9th, is that right? The 9th? Yes, I think so. I'm going to be in Dallas.
Next Wednesday is the 11th, man.
Oh, sorry. 10th.
Okay. Tuesday the 10th?
Tuesday the 10th is what I meant. Tuesday the 10th. See, I knew, that's why I got you there, Rob.
Too many dates.
There's just too many dates, man. There's too many dates. Tuesday the 10th, we are launching a new chapter in Dallas with a great panel of people. So I'm going to be down there, kick things off. But we got American Airlines and Millennial Media and 7-Eleven and, just a crazy group of people, all hosted by the marketing arm, great agency partner of ours, and excited about that. You can find out about that on the website. And then on the 25th of the month, so a little bit later, at the end of the month, in Atlanta, the Atlanta chapter is holding an event, Digital Element, Digital Envoy, are putting that on at the Atlanta Chamber, formerly the Atlanta Chamber of Commerce. Now it's just the Atlanta Chamber. So, yes. So check those things out. Get out there and learn what's going on in the world of location.
Yeah, and of
That's
course,
all I got to say about that.
If you're interested in any of the events, go to the lbma.com/events, and it is crazy what you guys are up to. I do not envy you. This is a crazy time, and it's very clear the number of events that you guys are putting on. It just seems like, it's sprouted up. All that hard work has materialized, and now it's like, hold on.
I know. Now we got to actually deal with all the. It's like they say, if you want to, you want to open that faucet a little bit, but be ready to for the water to come.
Controlled growth, buddy. That's what I always preach to startups, is like you don't want to be overwhelmed with growth. You want to control it so that you don't, first of all, get overwhelmed, and second of all, hit that trough of despair when it dries up. You don't want to get too used to it. So steady, metered success. But that's how much. How many years have you been doing the LBMA? Just so there's perspective.
It's coming on 4 now.
4 years. Yeah, that's what it takes to basically start cranking, doesn't it? 4 years, 8 years to exit.
Yeah, I think we're right there right now. So.
Very cool. Very cool. So check out the lbma.com/events for more information about all those. And hopefully we'll see somebody in Dallas and Atlanta. Yes. All right. Well, show is packed. Before we jump into the actual show, got another mobile minute here with Chuck Martin. This is an episode that talks about the segmentation by device and what that means for marketers, for consumers, and by device. It's not only by screen size, which is huge, but it's also about operating system and what that means around pricing as well, about different prices for different operating systems. So here, Chuck Martin, author extraordinaire, speaker extraordinaire, and my co-host on Mobile Minute. And here it is, number 157, segmentation by device. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Mobile Minute. You know, we used to segment, back in the olden days, we used to segment by like demographics, psychographics, neighborhood, income, and now, what does it come down to? The device type.
That's pretty much it. ComScore, which is a mega research firm, they just came out with a monster study that showed that we're going to hit $25 billion in mobile commerce spending this year. But interestingly, it depends on the device. What is really significant that I found in the study is that about a third of the top retailers' audience comes exclusively from smartphones and tablets. That's like 35%. It's mobile only. And if stores aren't dealing with mobile in a big way, they're in serious trouble. If you look at it by monthly only visits, Amazon was top, as you might expect, 43 million people, eBay 22 million people, Walmart 19 million. These are mobile only shoppers. Ticketmaster 9 million. Lowe's 6 million. So people are using their mobile devices to basically find what they really want to do. And if you look at it by category, for smartphone, the top categories are books, healthcare, and retail movies. But for tablets, the top categories are home furnishings and apparel. So it really depends on the device you're using.
Do you think we're ever going to see that day where people will be segmented and prices will be altered based on the device type that they're coming in? You know, we talk about this quite a bit, but do you think we'll ever see that day?
Oh, it's going to be even more than that. It'll be based on what the current inventory is in real time, just like airline seats have different prices. So people will be shopping based on where they are, who they are, demographics, and what the supply chain is providing. They basically can start to match supply, demand, time, and location, that's kind of where it's all going long term.
Mobile Minute, you can subscribe to that on iTunes. All you have to do is, it's just video format. All you have to go to iTunes and search for A Mobile Minute with Rob Woodbridge. Just that simple. Man, I don't know why you haven't done it already. Again, another way to make you smarter for free. Go ahead. So, I see if you brought this, I don't even know how to describe the resource or the app this week. It's not really an app. It is one of the coolest maps I think I've ever seen. But I think the best way to describe it's an open source city data, and it's kind of maps almost the 10 million different buildings that in Amsterdam or in the Netherlands. And it's done according to the year of construction. You're going to have to take a look now. If you're watching this video, you get a full visual of what it looks like right now. It's pretty astounding. If you're listening to this, I can't even describe it. It's a colorful map that just shows, that highlights the year it was built. What is this, man? It is amazing.
It's phenomenal. And so the reason I pulled this out, first of all, I just thought it was a crazy, amazing map, like you. But what it really highlighted for me is so many municipalities now are opening up their city data and enabling people to build apps and build solutions that leverage that data. And that's basically what's happening here in the Netherlands as well, except that I've never seen a map that quite like this. So, this is an entire visualization of all of the Netherlands, color-coded by basically, 50-year segments, pre-1800s, and then 50-year segments from then on, pretty much. And then it gets a little bit narrower as we get into the modern era. But, it's just amazing to be able to look at an entire place like this and see parts of the city that, were built in, 1500s or 1600s and, onto, more modern construction. And to be able to just click on any one of these buildings, these properties, and see like the actual year of construction, the name of the building. I mean, it's insane. As I was looking at this, I was like, what would this look like for the city of London or a more modern place like Toronto or Ottawa, where you and I are? Like, it's pretty interesting, right? When you can go back and look at history and you look at visualizations based on time and place, it's pretty cool.
I think if you take it back to India, or Nepal, or even New Delhi, for example, Ottawa would be like the same buildings are still here. Right?
Do they even have the data, though? That's the question, right? To build this in a place like Nepal.
Yeah, I mean, Ottawa has such a short history that it's compared to the mythical cities of London and even New York would be very cool, but or Rome, man, that would be amazing. But it's so fascinating. Like this is This is data visualized, right? At its best. I don't know what you do with this, but
this is not an infographic. This is like, real
data,
real cool data, like a very, very interesting visualization of it. So,
well, it's done by they have a City SDK, and it's amazing. So if you are just listening to this entire thing would be completely lost. You should go and download this or take a look at the video, or just go to the show notes at untether.tv. And this is episode number 146. So you can actually find a link to this thing, and it's pretty amazing. Very cool. I love it.
There you go.
Ah, very cool. All right. What do you say we jump into our stories, Asif?
Let's do it.
All right. First story. Hey, man, you know what? Security is on everybody's mind. Passwords, double authenticated password, triple authenticated passwords, thumbprints that they're the rumor that is, by the time you might be listening to this, that Apple will either have come out with on the new iPhone or not. Thumbprint readers for security. I used to use one in an old, IBM notepad. But what if we said, hey, and there's this new emerging market, obviously, for wearables. It's a little bit past emerging, but they're still trying to figure it out. But what if you combine security and wearables and your heart rate and everybody, your entire body is an algorithm, and somehow created a bracelet that basically allowed, when you depressed your hand on the bracelet, it took your heart rate and your heartbeat as a basically your body's fingerprint and used that as security. Watch this video. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about this. Amazing, amazing technology. Take a look. That is the Nymi bracelet. That's a Toronto company, isn't it?
It is a Toronto company, and this is the second like crazy wearable company I've seen out of Toronto in the last 2 weeks. So I don't know if there's just something in the water here, and all of a sudden wearables is what's going on in Toronto, or if this is happening everywhere. But it's cool. I mean, this type of security, this kind of, we all heard about Samsung, preempting Apple and the launch of their new Galaxy Gear and all that. But this is so much cooler than Galaxy Gear. This is, I mean, come on. This is
Trumps
like,
it.
This is my heart rate.
Yeah, as a password.
As a password. This isn't tracking how many calories I burned and how fast my heart is beating. This is, my password right here.
Well, I think that we're going to be talking about these stories more and more often. It started with last week with Nora Young and the interview that I did with her about the quantified self and self trackers. It's an interesting piece here that happens, and that Samsung watch, piece of shit. Like, let's be honest with you. Like, they went back 10 years and said, hey, everybody wants a computer on their wrist. They didn't do anything that was unique. They just preempted whatever Apple's going to be. I don't even know if Apple's going to do anything this week around it, but there's no usefulness in that. I do not want to call or send email or do anything from my watch. People, you got to get over that stuff. This kind of stuff is interesting. The only challenge I have is I don't want to wear 40 of these bracelets to get what I need done to get done. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So at some point, these one-offs, like I'm wearing right here, will be gone. right? They have to be gone because it has to do more than one thing, or it's just useless to me, right? But this to me is fascinating, and you saw in the video if you watched it that the implications around payments and getting in your car and getting in your house and validating all that kind of stuff is amazing, and I love it. I think that it's very, 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 very cool. And it is called the Nymi, right?
The Nymi, yes.
The Nymi bracelets. So turning your heartbeat into a password. And I think this is just only the beginning. And they're $79 for the first 25,000 customers, or $99 for everybody else. It's slated to ship
and I mean, and these guys are right here in Toronto. So guys, I know we haven't met you yet, but feel free to reach out to Rob or I. Come on the show. We'd love to hear kind of what the vision is, where you're going with this, and if you want us to try it out, we'll try it out.
I have no problem
trying it out. Send us some Nymis.
Send me a Nymi. The other thing is, I don't know what it is about Canada, but I've also talked with a Montreal-based company that's doing, embedded sensors in athletic gear and healthcare gear. So shirts for patients and those kind of things that do a lot of the onboard diagnostics right from the shirt onto a smartphone. Obviously, wearables, man. Huge, but productive wearables is even bigger, and I love it. There was a story out that just today that I saw where there was a onesie, for newborns that had all the sensors in it that fed right to a parent's smartphone that did all the vitals, so you knew exactly what you're doing instead of getting up 37 times in a night. First-time parents like we all did. Man, I wish we had this kind of stuff.
But I think the key point, and I think you hit it bang on, is we don't want to be wearing 10 of these things or 40 of these things. It needs to be a device that ultimately can do a whole lot of stuff, and whether it's security or it's opening my the door to my car, or it's telling me I need to take my eat some sugar because my blood pressure's off, or whatever it is. Like it's gotta be able to do a whole bunch of functions. But I think the other thing too is that it needs to be like a smartphone in the sense that it needs to communicate with other devices. We talk a lot about telematics in the car. So one of the things that I was involved in a little ways back is a project with a car manufacturer. I can't say who, but we were looking at the future of the nav systems and kind of looking 10 years out, and we were looking at factors like, I'm driving the car, my arm's sitting on the armrest is reading blood pressure and other health factors. It knows information about the occupants of the vehicle. It knows I'm sensitive to certain allergies or whatever. And it knows, from getting data from the CDC and the Weather Channel that, there's high pollen counts on the route that I'm currently going on, so I'm going to send you on a different route. All that kind of stuff, when you take into what Nymi's doing here, and then you see how does it transmit that data into the car as a device, and how to, it's about interactivity between devices as much as it is about what it can do just for you.
Yeah.
Right. So I think those two things are really interesting.
But that's why, when you start to think about it, the logical termination point for a lot of these could be the dashboards that I always talk about, right?
Yeah.
Your entertainment dashboard, your business dashboard, your personal dashboard, or your car dashboard. And I think the logical termination point for this, and the power right now still is in the device, because when Apple comes out with whatever it is, or whomever comes out, or Google comes out with their Android version, is that this is okay. But the power resides inside of the software. And the person who owns as many wrists then owns the developers that are going to build the software that enables that smartphone or the dashboard side.
Yeah.
And that's what's so interesting to me. So a lot of these guys like Nymi, I'd love to meet with these guys because their technology will eventually be brought into, in some way, shape, or form, something like this, into the leading device. So by only doing one thing, you're limiting your capacity, right? So screen and all that kind of stuff is important. This is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I can't wait, but I love that these guys are Canadian. I want them on the show. Nymi, if you're listening, we want to hear from you. Get Nymi.com. Get NYMI.com. Get Nymi.com. You can pre-order that. Go and do it. They're Canadian, eh? God.
There you go.
All right. Our second story.
Second story. So this is, we talk a lot about the future of news and media and news gathering and all of that. And we've talked a lot on the show about things like CNN's iReport and all of that. And, so this week, as I was trying to figure out what we were going to be talking about, I came across this company called OnOurRadar.org. So this is a company that has basically set out to change the way news is gathered in third world countries in particular, and in areas where people just aren't empowered and don't know how to be citizen journalists and how to feed that information that they have access to into channels that can actually do something with it. And so this is kind of what they set out to do, and it's all about mobile and location. It's all about working in communities, training people on how to do this, linking them up with organizations that want access to these people, that are mobile and able to gather the news. And I think this is an extremely noble and worthwhile initiative. I like it a lot, and they've been going at it for a little while, and they're actually crowdsource funding this initiative as well. So if you like what we're talking about when you check it out, drop these guys a few shekels as well and keep this thing moving.
OnOurRadar.org. I'll push that out right now. You know how I feel about taking education to the masses and the way that these phones, devices, whatever, smartphones, feature phones, it doesn't matter, are enabling this, right? So, we're about to see this revolution of developing nations and the education that happens as a result of smartphones and push the boundaries and I think really topple North America when it comes to connectivity and usability and functions and features and innovation. We always say that, we were talking a little bit before we started recording just about, sometimes I feel embarrassed that we talk about the stuff that we talk about, steps and tracking steps, and what they're doing is tracking, the flight of mosquitoes to, predict malaria outbreaks, right? I like this. I have one challenge. This is it, is that I don't know who benefits from this more. Certainly there's an education component in the developing nations, in the emerging economies, where they get to understand how to use the technology and certainly how to become objective journalists or reporters. And I think that that's very important, because I think it breaks patterns, right, as we see, especially, in countries where there's patterns that have been modeled after thousands or hundreds of years of the same pattern. And so I think that it's great to be able to break the patterns and look at things objectively. Huge benefit. But it seems to me that this is somewhat, hopefully not, but somewhat exploitive, maybe? Maybe that's not the right word, but they're getting all the new juicy insights. They're training a whole bunch of on-the-ground reporters to get all the juicy insights to sell or to become a resource to all the big name news agencies and to become the exclusive conduit. So I'm hoping that there's nothing disingenuous about this. But the other side of it is the next time that, in the Sudan, where a young kid holds up a camera and takes a photo of somebody doing something wrong, that kid's going to lose his hand or he's going to lose his life. So I'm hoping that there's something in here that there's some balance in here because of the benefits, and hopefully somebody gets paid somewhere along the line that isn't the news broker, that isn't the company that's doing this, that is actually the person that's taking the photos, so it can elevate them out of where they are. So I have a whole bunch of questions, and I'd love to hear from these guys to talk about if my concerns are right or if I'm way off. And oftentimes I'm way off, but first blush, they don't talk about that. They don't talk about the social good, right? And I'm worried about that.
And it's part of the training that they do, about informing people about the risks of when you become a citizen journalist, in this vein. Because, traditional journalism in some of these places is risky.
Yes.
When you work for big organizations, like the Associated Press and people like this that are out in the field, in the middle of war zones and whatever, that's risky enough.
Yeah.
Who knows, as you say, when some kid in the Sudan is part of this. So, but I love the concept of this. I think this is amazing. We definitely are going to get hooked up with these guys and get them on here to talk about what they're doing. But
I don't want to take anything away from it, right?
For sure. Love it a lot. And one of the interesting stats is that they've been doing this for a little while, and it's been used in 2 African elections already. 250 reporters, more than 2,000 reports have come in, apparently. And what I really like about this, one of the interesting things is they said over half of the reporters are women or girls that are doing this. And a third of them have physical or sensory disability. So obviously they're focusing on driving this. It's run by 2 women. This is top 50 female innovators in the UK awards and all this kind of stuff. So, kudos to them, and I love this initiative. So
wish you told me that before I just totally disparaged it.
It's all good, dude.
Yeah, it's great. going to be totally ostracized by this community. I know I'm very interested in this kind of stuff, and my mother comes from a background of aid. She worked for up here external affairs, CETA up here in Canada, that went out and all she did was teach underprivileged Muslim women that they had the rights, the same rights as every other human being on the planet, and they didn't have to hide behind their husbands, and they had the rights. And so she was loved and revered by the women and hated, obviously, by the Muslim men in Pakistan and Bangladesh. And so I believe in these initiatives, but I also know that there has to be some, the impact on socially has to be there as well, so that it's not just you're literally helping them move out of what they're doing and into a greater life. And my hope is that that's what this is about. So OnOurRadar.org, fascinating, but it just shows you the power of these little devices in your pocket right now. Outside of the shopping and real location marketing.
There's so much more to location than retail and shopping, but hey.
I know. All right, back into retail and shopping.
Examples. Yeah, so our third story is a company called Toopher, and that's spelled Toopher.
Yes.
And basically focused on two-factor authentication. So we're talking about security and authentication again. But what I like about this is this is all about looking at how we can use location to verify that somebody's actually where a transaction is trying to happen. And so they've combined those things together. They just raised $2 million in funding as well. And so the idea here is that passwords, as we know, are weak. That's what the online world has relied on forever. In order to prove authentication, there needs to be, another factor. And so what they're saying is look, when we see a transaction coming through from some online something somewhere, or a website or a mobile website or something like that somewhere, we want to make sure that the device is actually where it should be at the same time. And so they're matching those two things together and creating this two-factor authentication, leveraging location and password. Pretty awesome.
Really, really, really awesome. Like, just the fact is, even when they talk about geofencing a specific location, like your house, and then so it's automatic, so there's no interaction at all, just based on location. Yeah, it just shows you. You've got the Nymi guys talking about your body as an algorithm, and then you've got Toopher talking about location as your security algorithm, and I think that is amazing. And we're going to start to see this with the authentication. Like Google already does it with, and a lot of companies obviously do this around text messaging. So they'll send you a text to validate. But I think this takes that up a little bit more, and I'm a big fan of this kind of stuff, and especially the example in the video that.
Well, it's the simplicity, right?
Yeah.
That makes it easy. I mean, it's all about taking steps out of the equation and making it simpler and as uncomplicated as possible. So
passwords don't work. What gets hacked? Passwords. Yes. So location to me is amazing. So is your body as an algorithm. So Toopher.com, 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 making it simple.
Now, you realize every time I say that, because I'm Canadian, right?
Yeah.
And
it's Toopher. Like I get a Toopher.
I just think about a 24 pack of beer, right?
I was thinking of that.
It's a Toopher.
It's a Toopher. And they kept on trying to get me to search for Topher Grace when I was typing that in. No, Toopher. Oh, you want a case of beer, eh? That's, no.
Yeah.
Toopher. So Canadians.
These guys, maybe they're from the east coast of Canada or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. No, they're not. It's an American company. So.
Well, they got the Canadian vernacular down.
Yeah.
Yes, it's perfect. That's why I was appealing. I was like, oh, we're going to be talking about beer. Oh, security.
Not.
All right, those are the first three stories for the show today. We're going to take a quick break here, and we're going to listen to Ryan Golden, who's the co-founder and CEO of a company called Moasis. You guys know Moasis well, don't you, Asif?
I do.
Yes, and I had an opportunity to sit down with Ryan. Get this, we're doing this interview. He's just moved to the Bay Area, right? He's picked up his entire company, moved to the Bay Area. He's got a newborn child. He's just arrived. He hasn't unpacked. He's got, he's exhausted, and he actually took the time to sit down and have a chat with me. So this is Ryan Golden from Moasis. He's the co-founder and CEO of Moasis. We're back on the flip. But there are people out there who think that, first of all, that mobile is not important to their business, which is crazy to me. Second thing that they think about is that even worse is that they say location on mobile is not important to their business. So how come location is so important? Why? Why is everybody chasing this?
I think it's inherent to everything you do. And you take away the mobile aspect. I mean, look at look at publications, how they started historically. I mean, everything was local. You got your local paper. The advertising was location centric. The articles were more local because, you know, quite honestly, you cared what was going on in the city. If you lived in Chicago, you didn't care what was going on in New York. Obviously, times changed. You know, from a restaurant standpoint, you know, when you're walking to the bus or the subway and they have the sandwich boards, you know, they're all trying to say, hey, you live around here, you work around here, you play around here, I have something to say. With mobile being literally the new virtual, you know, billboard in our pocket that we pretty much never turn off, it's just now becoming a natural extension on how we relate to the screen, but more importantly, how do we relate to the location we're currently in, and what is relevant to me at the time.
It's a good way to put it. The virtual billboard in your pocket that you can't turn off, but there is a balance, and I'm sure we're going to touch on this. There is that balance of too much. When is too much? When is over subscribing or over pushing to people? You know, you don't want to end up having like the Times Square of the mobile experience, right? Although it becomes a tourist attraction, I just can't imagine Times Square in your pants.
Yeah.
So
no, I would agree. I think that a lot of this is very linear to what was happening, you know, in the 90s, you know, with, you know, the .com revolution, the websites coming on. I remember like companies trying to figure out how to monetize, you know, before you could even access their site, you would have to pay, and they tested different models. And I'm seeing it again in mobile, where we're going to find eventually in this wild, wild west, it's going to finally, you know, pan out what the consumer is going to accept. And there's a long line of acceptance. That could be interaction, it could be, you know, data sharing, you know, personal identification. We're all, I think every company is right now observing, and we're trying to figure out where the consumer is going to be most comfortable. And obviously, governments have influence on that too.
Yes, they do. But they don't care. They're just going to take your location regardless at this point. So, and I'm just joking if you're listening to this, government people. I'm in Canada. Yeah, like I'm in Canada, so come and get me. Ryan, if they're knocking on your door, my apologies. But I got a whole bunch of stuff that I want to cover here, including really tactical advice for small and medium-sized businesses or businesses of any kind that are looking at location as a facet of their business. Because I like you, believe that mobile and location, the marriage of these two is obviously the next generation of revenue and services layer on top of what's going on right now. And I think that there's great ways to extend a business into this spot. But I'm interested in also knowing about Moasis, the history of Moasis. So what is Moasis? Why did you build it?
Yeah. Moasis was actually started by marketers for marketers, and I think that's interesting, you know, and I want to touch on that for a second. A lot of companies that are started, you know, out here west or, you know, throughout the United States, it's a bunch of engineers that come together and they build something. They don't know, you know, how to monetize or, you know, eventually what this tool will be. It's a fun project for them, which is great. But as marketers, it being on different sides of the table, from client to agency to consulting, you know, we wanted to build a platform based on some of the challenges we were hearing in the space. And all the challenging were leading to basically, as the future grows and more consumers are interacting with mobile devices, regardless what they are, it could be the tablet, your watch, your Google glasses, there's going to have to be some kind of, let's say, real estate that's defined in order to organize, deliver, and then study the big data occurring. So we wanted to set out as, I would say, we're more of a localization tech company. And what we're focused on right now is the location targeting, geo-learning through data, and exact location optimization. And that's really done through our proprietary GeoGrid logic.
So from a consumer standpoint, no, from a business standpoint, what does that mean? What can you help them do?
Sure. So there's actually 3 buckets that we wanted to go out and offer products immediately, and it was to the challenges we were hearing being marketers on those different sides of the tables. The first bucket were the agencies and the brands. Obviously, they face many challenges, such as, you know, I'm Mr. Advertiser, I got to be a marketer for my client, I have to be a data person for my client. And in the past, I would say 12, 16 months, now they have to be location experts. That's tough enough. And what I mean by location experts is most of the offerings out there when it comes to the polygon or geofence technology is you're constantly defining your own real estate. So you're the one determining how big should your radius be. and you're constantly shrinking and growing it for results, or what shape should my polygon be? And we said, it'd make more sense if we standardize that, so you could worry about being a marketer. And what we did is basically the agencies are working with us. Instead of drawing a big circle over like Ottawa, for example, and doing a piece of creative, they're able to pick individual cells within this grid. If you could picture, do A/B testing, do multiple things at creative so it's more relevant to the location. But let's take it a step forward. They're getting excited because now you're talking about optimization of cells within a grid. So instead of optimizing just for one big circle or small circle, picture a bunch of cells within this circle, but we don't use circles, that is saying, hey, you know what? Over here in Iowa, this is not working. So why would I want to spend dollars? Let's turn it off. Let's reallocate this budget to what is working. So there's a huge, not just targeting opportunity, but there's the optimization opportunity. And I think that's part of the dilemma in the space because, and it's still going to take time to shift, is most media buyers, as you know, are very programmatic. But the future of mobile and location is going to be more about that flexible buying. So, and that's the stage we're setting currently.
That is Ryan Golden. He is the co-founder and CEO of Moasis. If you haven't heard of them before, you've now heard of them. That was a great overview of what they do. You can head to moasisglobal.com if you're interested in any more information. Or, of course, you can come to untether.tv and see that full interview. Man, it'll be up there after September 12th of this year. So if you're listening to this in the future and it's past September 12th, you know that it's up there right now. So just go and check it out. But I implore you to go and check out moasisglobal.com. And we thank Ryan for participating here and, of course, on untether.tv. And as they say in Canada, Asif, hey, let's get back at her, okay? Hey?
Hey.
Yeah, if that means any sense. All right. Fourth story. Can't believe this is the fourth story. This was a huge story that broke this week, obviously. Has a lot to do with this big company called Microsoft buying this big company called Nokia. At one point, big company called Nokia is a $7.2 billion deal split in two ways. $5 billion for the handset, basically the handset division of Nokia, and $2.2 billion in licensing of patents and other technologies. I got to say that there's a few things here. Stephen Elop, who was the CEO of Nokia, is a Canadian. Actually was a Macromedia guy and actually worked at Microsoft. 3 years ago he left to run Nokia. Now he's coming back, stepping down as CEO of Nokia and coming back into Microsoft. He's part of the acquisition. I can't help but think that there's some kind of corporate espionage here that happened, because he took a company that was worth far greater than it is today 3 years ago and systematically hammered it down. And this is very un-Canadian of me to blast another Canadian, and signed up a partnership with Microsoft 2 years ago that basically decimated Nokia. And if you listen to Tomi Ahonen, he's documented this very well. He used to have the Stephen Elop death watch, right, where he figured he would be fired. So he took over the company 3 years ago at a high valuation, signed an agreement with Microsoft to help with the Windows mobile distribution. 2 years after that, the company is basically broken up, sold the parts, and sold to Microsoft for less money than Microsoft bought Skype for. This is Nokia's handset company. So I mean, I can't think that you got to think that there's got to be some kind of oversight body that looks at this and think, well, was this done intentionally or not? And I don't want to speculate. I don't want to get sued.
I'm not even going to go there.
But this wasn't the big deal for you. I mean,
this is not the big deal for me. I mean, I think this is a logical end to the handset business for Nokia. I think this is the final death, a nail in the coffin for BlackBerry. Microsoft is, they're not doing too badly on selling Windows, based phones. There's the
small percentage.
Number 3, way behind, but they're there, and this will make them a bit stronger.
But you know what? I think one of the big things that they also wanted to do was that whole control thing that BlackBerry understood and did it first, and then Apple understands it, which is controlling the hardware, every stack, right?
Yes.
Every piece of it, all the hardware up to the software.
Absolutely, it's about owning the whole ecosystem. Yeah. So, but the real story here for me is what Nokia didn't sell. Yes. So what is now going to be the new Nokia company?
The tire company.
Their location business.
Oh,
so
yes.
it's all about their Here platform, which is their location-based, ad targeting and mapping and all that kind of stuff, is the part that they still own. And not only did Microsoft pay $7 billion for patents and the device business. On top of that, I don't know what the dollar number is, but they paid for a license to Nokia's Here platform, which Nokia is keeping. So that is the business. Nokia is now 100% a location-based marketing and ad targeting and mapping company. That's what they're all about going forward.
Can they make a living? Can they make a living doing that?
50% of the revenue last year came from that side of the business.
Where was the other I think that they can. The answer is yes, but they had a mechanism to do it, right? Which was the handsets. So you know what I mean? Is there how much of it do they?
Yeah. But the business is about that Navtech business, right?
Yeah,
It's the old Navtech company that they acquired is where they're making all their money these days. It's not from handsets sales. No. Like that's not happening.
But they're licensing. They're licensing the Navtech.
There's licensing revenue and other revenue, but the business today is about location. It's about maps. It's about ads targeted against those maps. It's about in-car navigation system stuff. It's about all that stuff, and that's what I'm really excited about because Nokia is going to be and is already and is going to continue to be a major player in that space. Yeah. And unburdening themselves from the handset business is a good thing, I think. In this context,
I would agree. Like if they owned the feature phone market forever, and I still think that's massive in the emerging market. But I think Microsoft is looking more of. They talked about a hardware and a services company, and this just doesn't fit the spell. And it's just interesting. So jettisoning the smartphones and focusing on location, that's a big commitment. And when did they buy Navtech? I keep forgetting. Like 4 years ago. 5 years? Yeah, 4 years ago. And to think about the transition that this company's gone through in that period of time. And I jokingly said tires, but that's where Nokia started, right? Which was in tires and textiles. And so they've reinvented themselves many times before. Yep. So interesting story. I love the angle on it, though. All location, baby. All location. So $7.2 billion, and you're thinking that this is a gift.
I think this is a gift. Yeah. This is great. This is, good riddance to that. Let's go focus on the things that are actually making us money. Yeah. And let's grow that business, and they're going to be a powerhouse in location. There's no question.
No, they already are, and that's why they spend so much money on Navtech. Yeah. But you said something that's interesting around there, which is this is the end of BlackBerry, and today, this morning, BlackBerry announced that they were actually accelerating the acquisition process. They put themselves up, and they already have suitors that have come to them.
It's an auction now.
It is, and so by October, November, they anticipate that RIM or BlackBerry will be sold, and it's the usual suspects, and I always thought that Microsoft was one of those guys, and maybe they still are. It'd be interesting to talk about that, but it's Lenovo and those guys, and so you're right. I think that what Nokia is doing is before it destroys the rest of their business is getting out of the thing that is the low-hanging fruit, the things that is the albatross.
You know who I think is an interesting one. Just it's way off topic now, but I think an interesting company that is probably in the running there is a company like HTC.
Oh, could be, yeah. Falling on hard times, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those guys forever were the manufacturer for everybody else until they decided to come out and kind of with their own brand. So they were behind the scenes forever. Came out with their own brand. They did okay on getting some devices into the market for a little while, but they never really had the patents and the technology. And there's an interesting opportunity maybe to acquire some of what BlackBerry's got.
Oh. I wanted, I was listening, and there's a lot of talk about BlackBerry, and the biggest piece of their technology, the most valuable, is the operating system, not the BlackBerry operating system, but with QNX, right? QNX.
Yeah, the car stuff.
Yeah, and they bought that for between $200 and $300 million 3 years ago. So when you start to think about that, that could go quite far. Telematics, man, telematics and wearables.
It's all about it.
All right, so Microsoft acquires Nokia for $7.2 billion, but that's not the big story. Obviously, it's not big because it's number 4 on our list.
There you go.
Right ahead of Gucci.
If Microsoft wants to, they can acquire you and me for just maybe $1 billion. We'll take
$1 billion for $20, man. $20 bucks and a twofer. All right.
$20 and a twofer.
And a twofer. Gucci. Talk to me about Gucci.
Yes, Gucci. So switching out of Microsoft mode and into Google mode for a minute. Yes. We haven't talked about Google for a few weeks, I think, on the show. So So this is an interesting story. So Google has been investing heavily in their maps business and advancing what they can do around indoor location and mapping of buildings inside of buildings and airports and all that kind of stuff. And so one of the interesting use cases of that I saw this week was Gucci recently opened a new flagship store in Milan, a men's store in Milan, and they thought, people. How are we going to drive traffic to the store? How are we going to get people excited about coming into the store? Well, why don't we actually create a visualization of the store and all the areas of the store and its multi-levels and all this kind of stuff? And why don't we have that content displayed through Google Maps as an environment, like a full 360 inside view of the store? Using Google Business Photos and Google Maps and kind of tying that all together. And I think this is really cool. I think this is an interesting peek into the future of how retailers market in an online local search environment. I think this is really, really cool.
I do too. I mean, Google has done this a couple of times. I've been inside the Twit studios through Google Maps, right?
Yep.
Twit.tv, and they have a when you search for it in Petaluma, California on Google Maps, it allows you to go Street View and into the studios, which I think is very cool. And they've started to do that with shopping malls and museums and all those kind of things, even the bottom of the ocean and the moon. But you're right. I think this is another facet for marketing efforts and generating buzz around your business. This is very cool, and you might as well do it. And you'd expect something like this to come from a brand like Gucci. But I didn't know there were men's stores in Gucci and Milan. You have to go.
We're just not shopping in the right circles, Rob.
Clearly.
Now, if you come to Toronto this week, all you're going to hear about is Gucci and all this kind of stuff because it's TIFF. It's Toronto International Film Festival. My office, the LBMA office, is literally like a 30-second walk from the center of TIFF. And I was down there this morning, and like traffic is insane. Like every street's closed off. Like it's just ridiculous.
All for stars. Star sightings.
Stars. Yeah. All for stars.
The only thing I've ever been to at TIFF was Springsteen's, of course, right? It was the documentary of Springsteen and during the Darkness on the Edge of Town tour, or recording sessions. And somebody just had an old camera and they created this. I mean, it's an amazing sneak peek into the creative process of Bruce Springsteen. But a good friend of mine, Doug Soltis, who Dougie, at Tron on Twitter, he managed to get me one ticket to go and see Springsteen, and I thought it was the premiere for the movie. But I walked in, I gave him my ticket, and I sat down. I was like second row, dead center, and out walked Edward Norton, Ed, the actor. Yeah. And he said, "Special treat here. We're going to sit down and have a conversation with Bruce Springsteen." And then Springsteen walked out on stage right in front of me, sat down in front of me, and it was like a 2-hour conversation between Ed Norton asking questions to Bruce Springsteen. Like you can tell. I mean, I was still speechless.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing about TIFF is unlike some other festivals, it's the access that you have to these people, like up front and close.
It's in Canada.
It doesn't happen in a lot of places like that. I mean, this is the second biggest festival after Cannes, right?
Yeah.
So in the world. And interestingly enough, just as a quick sidebar, because you brought up Springsteen. So
Don't I always?
Jeffrey Remedios, who's the founder of Arts and Crafts label, which is a big indie label up here in Canada, he runs a thing during TIFF where he basically brings emerging indie bands and artists together with film producers to give Canadian artists exposure to film producers, so they may basically work with these guys to score film music, and it's really interesting because you get these, in a similar vein, you get these bands and these musicians and these artists in a room up close and personal with a Steven Spielberg or whoever, and it's really cool to see that kind of close knit in a tiny little venue somewhere in the middle of Toronto. Nobody knows what's going on, and that's what a lot of TIFF is trying to figure out what's going on in what little building around the corner from you.
That's amazing.
So
I think it's great for Canada. It's great for Toronto. I mean, OIFT doesn't really make it. Ottawa International Film Festival. WIFE.
All right, we got one more story.
If we make it through without a Springsteen story or a jumping off topic. Yeah. So talk about this. Asif, AirPatrol launching something called ZoneAware.
Yeah, this is interesting. There's a lot of people in this space. I'll start by saying that. So not crazy new in terms of what they're doing, but some elements of it are really interesting. So this is about location targeting over identifying Wi-Fi and cellular devices in a small geofence or a small location specific zone, if you will, is really what ZoneAware is. So they've got this technology based on passive sensors that they install in areas, and then basically as people move about, they can identify people coming in and out of a zone. That in itself is not all that interesting. What's interesting about it is the accuracy levels that they can get to. So where a lot of these technologies, when using just pure Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or other things, can say, hey, somebody's come in and they're like within 10 meters. These guys can get down to like a couple of feet in terms of accuracy. So they give an example of somebody walks into a restaurant and they're part of your VIP or your loyalty program. They can tell you the minute when they actually open the door, that they've arrived, and then you can go and grab them and give them their preferred seating or whatever. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff, or emergency response. We can get to exactly where the accident is, or the person that's hurt is. Down to just as I said, a couple of feet accuracy. So these kinds of things are interesting. I question whether or not the capital cost of deploying solutions like this, in contrast to say things like what we've been talking about lately with like guys like Indoor Atlas, magnetic fields, where there's no capital equipment at all. So, anyways, great that they're putting new solutions out in the marketplace. Great that they can deliver that kind of accuracy. So I like it for that reason.
A good question there is the cost associated with getting to that kind of granularity worth the money, right? Is if you go from 2 meters to 2 feet, does it really make a difference? And is that distance worth the amount of money that it costs to implement? So, I think that this is all going to shake out. There's going to be some kind of emerging technology, and it could be BLE, it could be these guys, it could be Earth's magnetic field, right? And I think that you go with something that's ubiquitous and accepted everywhere. But all I know is that, I keep thinking about these things, is that the technology that is emerging is the simplest of technologies, right? So you don't want to fight an uphill battle about getting things on somebody's wrist, or selling some guy a chip that has to be in a phone like NFC in an iPhone, right? It's probably a sure sign of success, but it's also the longest haul, and there's so many things that can derail it in the sales cycles that we're talking about. So. But if you're interested in AirPatrol, go to airpatrolcorp.com, airpatrolcorp.com. Oh, man, we made it through those 6 stories.
I know.
Well, we've still got one piece left. Our resource of the week. This time, it's a case study, Asif, and big numbers here. It's a Mobile Commerce Daily case study from Ace Hardware. Why don't you tee this sucker up? What is this, and how do they have a 49% redemption rate?
Well, first of all, this is much more than mobile couponing. I think is the key to why this works. Ace Hardware, for those who are listening around the world and might not know them, a pretty big player in the home hardware improvement space. Along with guys like Home Depot and folks like that. Big Chicago-based company, so I thought I'd bring this up because we talk about new products and campaigns and this, that, and the other thing, and research and whatever. But here's some actual hard data, like some actual results, a case study that says this thing can work, this location thing can work, and here it is. This is it's based on coupons, but it's not only about coupons. It's about people opting in to get geo-targeted coupons. It's being powered by a company called Fun Mobility. We've talked about those guys before. Yeah. When they originally launched, you might remember that we had a story, I don't know how long ago, about Chiquita bananas or something. Yes. It was the same company that powered that's powering this. This is about combining loyalty platforms with couponing and a whole bunch of things. So, 49% was the number.
Yes,
right?
49%
in the redemption rate.
Yep.
Yeah. And so you would get this coupon that offered you $10 off a $50 purchase. So it's not just, here's a coupon for 50 cents, off something, today. It's $10. And when you go into a hardware store, you're not typically going into a hardware store to buy, a pack of gum. You're going into a hardware store to buy, a tool or, some lumber or, whatever it is, you're going to be spending $50 probably, right? So this is a significant value, I think, that they're bringing to the customer. So I think they did a good job in matching the value in terms of what you were providing that actually helped drive the incentive for people to redeem. So I think that for me was key around this. They saw, along the same lines, an increase in basket size around this, which was huge.
Like a huge increase.
Yeah.
Like
$72 average basket size,
from
up
18.
from about 18 to 20.
Yeah,
that's big.
Yeah,
that's big.
It works.
Right?
It works.
So yeah, I mean, and that's why you do a 10 on 50, right? I mean, that's why it works. If I'm going in there to buy, a few light bulbs, okay, maybe I'm normally going to spend $20, but because I'm there, I got $10 off. If I spend a little bit more, while I'm getting the light bulbs, I might as well get a new
power drill,
ceiling fan.
Yes,
while I'm there.
But this works because I always get caught in Loblaws. They have iTunes gift cards, and they'll do the $40 for $50 worth of cards, right? Of gift cards, and that's a free $10, right? I'm going to spend it anyways.
Absolutely.
So I buy it every time, and I just say like that's $10 that I'm going to spend regardless. So it's a great deal. It's 20% off, man. Of everything that I'm going to spend. So yeah, but you can't mistake this for couponing. There's such a drastic difference here between couponing. This is incentive. This is to increase baskets and spend while you're in store. It's not giving you a discount on what you're spending already at the cash till, which is what I hate. But it is to increase basket size, and I think that is what you're trying to do, and that this works effectively. Couponing, on the other hand, it's incentivizing you to get into the store, and so this could be very effective. And I'm so surprised they only had a 2% rejection rate of people who wanted more deals, but a 49% redeem rate, which to me is insane.
Yeah.
Unless they're just in there for a stick of gum, which seems highly unlikely. But very cool case study. It's linked up on untether.tv. This is episode number 146, or at thelbma.com, episode number 146 in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll have it on the site under case studies as well.
Yeah, so. Very, 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 very cool. Just so you know, Asif, it was September 8th that we recorded the episode with Chiquita last year. So almost a year to the day.
There you go. Fun Mobility.
Fun Mobility. Unbelievable.
Good guys over there. There's Pat Murphy over there is is one of the guys that's pushing this stuff. So congrats guys on that too.
Very cool. Well, that is it, man. 6 stories, a mobile minute, our pseudo app, the map of the Netherlands as our app of the week. We had our guest, who is Ryan Golden, the co-founder and CEO of Moasis, our resource of the week. This case study done by Ace Hardware. Done by Ace Hardware. Great discussion, deep conversation. I loved it. I felt good about this episode. And
we got Springsteen.
We got Springsteen in there, right in the middle of it all. I got Bruce Springsteen. So that's like 146 consecutive episodes where I've mentioned Bruce Springsteen. Yes. Anything else to say, or should we sign off?
I think we're good. We're done.
We are done.
Until next week.
Till episode number 147. Seif, you are going to be in Dallas next week?
I'm going to be in Dallas on Tuesday, and then I'm going to be in Austin Wednesday and Thursday. So if you're in either of those two cities,
reach out.
In the great state of Texas, come and see me.
Reach out, and then we'll be back here next week for the 147th edition of this episode, this podcast. So we'll see you then. Asif, safe travels. And for those of you listening, watching, subscribe. Give us a good review. Sign up for the mailing list. Do whatever it takes to interact with us. Reach out. My name is my Twitter is @RobWoodbridge, and it's Asif R. Khan. Or reach out at rob@untether.tv or asif@thelbma.com. We'll see you next week for episode number 147. Have a great week, everybody. Asif, safe trips.
Cheers.